Seven beat Tuvok countless times at their games of Calto. A Vulcan would never go to Acleon 7 after the anti-Kolinar demonstrations, and Seven's neural pattern was stabilized on Voyager by her friend, Tuvok. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 7, entitled Dominion, written by Jane Maggs, directed by Deborah Kampmeyer. We've got a very special guest today. Can you believe it? It is Tuvok himself, that guy from Spaceballs, the rock and roll Vulcan, Mr. Tim Russ.
The legend himself.
Man.
Well,
you know, I wasn't planning on doing that kind of a big intro, but then I started thinking about it. I remember that really funny video that you did at your house where you're like combing through the planet. This guy's brilliant.
Yeah. The guy, one of the guys that I play racquetball with, and there's a bunch of them that were on a group chat, and one of them apparently found out that I was in Spaceballs, and he just went bananas today. It was just today, He was texting me and says, you were what? I didn't know you were black. He was like enamored because he loves that movie so much.
Yeah.
And, it's
who doesn't?
Well,
it's a cult classic. It's a classic.
It was 2 days worth of work for me in 1986, I think it was. It was a paycheck and some work. Glad to have it.
Yeah.
And then, 25, 30 years later, it's people can't get enough of it. I only had 4 words. That's all I said. Friends of mine have been in films and, they worked on it for a month and a half and they only got one scene out of it and whatever. And, I'm on Voyager for 7 years, but most people only remember me from that. 4 words. That's it.
It's crazy. It's crazy how it can come down to something that's that simple. Was like you weren't starring in the movie. It wasn't all about you, but
no, it was. It was.
You think you miss it.
Spaceballs is about that dude. Period.
I quote Spaceballs all the time. I always say, "Why didn't anybody tell me?
My ass was this big." Yeah, I knew.
Yeah,
I knew that's that was where you were going.
I quote that all the time.
My favorite gag is when they have to put the VHS in to find out where they are in the story. That's the funniest.
Yeah. It's like
that's the funniest bit. They got to find out where they are in the story.
Yeah.
And then they get to that exact point, and they're looking at each other on the screen, and they're oh my God, it was hysterical. That's hysterical.
That is
Love
a very good moment. Yeah, it's a classic for me. You can't get enough Spaceballs.
But speaking of classics, this season of Star Trek Picard is going to be a classic. It's an instant classic. I hate to segue away from one of my favorite movies of all time and one of the best ever, but this season feels like a giant movie. And it's 100. So freaking cool. It's such a treat that you said yes when they approached you, Tim. Do you remember anything about that day? Do you remember them approaching you? And if you had to think about it for a long time, or were you like, I'm all for it. I love Star Trek. I'm in.
No, my agent sent me the email from them requesting my looking at the script and wanting to resurrect the role. And I said, well, of course, absolutely. And then it was like, even cooler because of what he was doing in the scene. I thought that was even better. Than just walking on and, he went that way or subspace this or that. It actually was a flip in terms of what's happening with his character. I love that twist, and it was great. It was a reveal. It was a surprise. So you get two surprises, my being on there and then having to, not being me, which was great. So I loved it. I thought it was great. And certainly was easy to do that. Not a problem at all.
And I think you did an excellent job of you playing you, but not being you. I mean, that's not an easy. Yeah, it's not an easy thing for an actor to have to balance those lines because you have to find where you're going to take away from and add to, or alter what you normally would do. And there was a moment there where you took a pause that I thought was great when she mentions the game that you guys play. And you did a pause, and I love the pause because
so dramatic.
I had to go back and watch it again after it was the reveal, because I looked at it and I said, "Oh, that pause was actually him giving that away," but I didn't know it at the time, right? When I'm receiving it,
because he has to think about that,
right?
As that character, he has to think about that, or he has to recall that, or find that somewhere,
Right.
It's very creepy and bizarre the way that was put together, but just a moment where it just, and
that
then
moment where he's like
from there,
and you come out of it great too, because you don't give it away so much that you were trying to think about and find it. You played in the Vulcan way, which is another great. Tim, I think you do an excellent job. I don't know if I've told you this before, but you have held the bar that was set really high by Leonard Nimoy when playing this Vulcan character. I believe that you've given so much justice to the role. You've played it with the intelligence, with the wit, with just the way you're supposed to. At least I perceive you're supposed to do a Vulcan, and you've always been outstanding with that. And I just wanted to make sure I tell you that.
Thank you very much. There was a couple of things when I first read for the role, or was offered an opportunity to read for the role. There were two things once I booked it that I was very much concerned with. One was I hope I don't get fired after we film it, a couple of scenes and they don't like it. So I had to make sure that the producers were happy with it, but also because I had to fill these shoes of a character that's already been established. It's not like a Ferengi, whether you come in and you're going to make up this whole character from scratch. This character has already been established. So if I don't get this guy right, I'm going to be in trouble for 7 years. I mean, nobody's going to like him, and they're not going to buy it. They have to buy that this character is who he is, because they already know what that walk and talk is all about. And if I was not right for it physically, I would not have gotten it either. So everything had to line up just perfectly for that to happen. And obviously I was familiar with Nimoy's character. They only had 3 shows on in syndication and reruns when I was growing up, and that happened to be one of them. So we saw that show all the time. So I knew that character and how the character was going to walk and talk, and that I had to be able to get that right. Otherwise, would have been not very good for 7 years.
Well, people don't understand. It's not the ears, it's not the makeup, it's the way you play the character. It doesn't matter what makeup you put on somebody.
Right.
It's the way you enunciate words. Right. The facial expressions. It's all of those things, and it's just remarkable. And I love seeing you in this. It gave me a special treat because you're one of the few Star Trek actors that have now transcended multiple shows. And now with this Picard on your resume, with Voyager on your resume, and then Deep Space Nine's on your resume.
Next Generation's
on your resume.
Yes, wow.
I mean, this is a lot of shows and span of decades, and that's also another hats off that I want to give you for, staying in this genre and keeping yourself fresh and keeping yourself just, delivering amazing performances time after time.
Thank you very much. It was it was a long process from the very beginning to get to, even just to get to Voyager. It was 7 years. It was a 7-year process to get there. And I have to thank Rick Berman because he was my champion. Roddenberry was not so much my champion. I don't think he liked me as much as Rick did. And so once he passed away, Rick Berman took the helm, and he brought me in. And it's not long after he took over, I ended up booking stuff on Star Trek, and it just kept going from there. It's just serendipity.
That's really cool.
Did you have any idea going forward when you were doing Next Generation and Deep Space Nine that eventually one day you would have your own regular role?
Not at that time.
Did you feel like?
No, not at the time. When I was doing the feature film Generations, I worked on Generations playing a tactical officer, ironically enough, but a human tactical officer. that's when Berman came up to me twice during the filming of that week. 2 times he came up to me and said, "We're developing a new series that's going to be casting next summer. It's called Voyager, and I'd like to have you read for one of the roles." He told me twice on 2 different days. He told me that, and needless to say, I kept my calendar clear. That period of time, the next year, I literally did not take any other work during that period of time because I didn't want to be out of town shooting on some, series somewhere doing something.
If Rick Berman tells you twice, there's something there.
He told me 2 times, and I said, "Nope, we're not doing it." I told my agent and my manager, and I turned down stuff. I turned down some offers. I didn't read for things because they were going to be filming over that period. I said, "Nope, I want a shot at that because that's a potential 7-year series." And I've already, I'm already in with the producers, so I've got a straight shot to that thing if it happens. And it almost didn't happen. It's very close because they were going to cast somebody 65 or so, an older Tuvok. So I almost didn't get that. Then they changed the age range, and that's when I walked in. So it was.
Did they do a casting section for that older Tuvok?
Yeah, I think they did. They were trying. They were looking at Robert Guillaume was being considered. I think Robert Guillaume was being considered, I think, for that role. And they tried some folks, and then they just decided, no, let's drop his age back down to 30. And that's when they got the call. I was in my agent's office when that call came in. I was just leaving my agent's office. I was walking into the lobby, and the call came in while I was there.
Wow.
And they said, "Come in and read for it." So,
Tim, when you said needless to say, for a split second, I thought you said neelix to say. And I think you should one of these days just to keep us on our toes. But Voyager's been over for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to reprise Tuvok? Like, did you have to? I know Jerry, has mentioned in the past that it was difficult for her to re-find 7 of 9. Was it difficult for you to re-find Tuvok, or was he always kind of there on your shoulder with you? And then on top of that, adding the layer that Cirroc mentioned, which is somebody actually playing Tuvok. So you're playing somebody playing Tuvok, which is a total mindfuck. But was it difficult?
Yeah, it was not that difficult to find him again. And when I started the scene out, I focused more on playing him because the whole point is he has to make these other people believe it's really him. And so, and for that matter, the audience believes it's him. So I played him as tight to Tuvok as I could get right up until that last, few moments in the scene where it starts to, go haywire. So I focused on that, but it was not too difficult to find him because his emotional range of that character is pretty narrow, and so I know the vocal quality he has and his attitude and the way he plays the beats and his the rhythm of his speech. It's not too difficult because I worked. I had the script before shooting, so I worked on it for a little bit just to tune it up a tiny bit and get in there and do it. So it was fine, not too difficult.
Which do you have more fun doing? Do you have, because I've seen you play both now, do you have more fun playing the hero or the villain?
Oh,
because I really fun. Like you seeing play the villain. I love seeing you as
He's
the villain.
So good as a villain.
Always more fun to play the villain. Almost any actor will tell you that the villain is always more fun. Everybody loves the villain. The bad guy is the hard part because, not the bad guy. The good guy is the hard role because he's the good guy. He's not as interesting as the villain. The villain's always interesting. Why is the villain the villain? What drives him? And he's causing all the turmoil and the muck. So you want to see what he's done. And then you can't wait to see him go down. The villain is always the best part. It's always the best role to get is the bad guy.
Everybody go check out Tim in Fifth Passenger. That's 5th Passenger. I was blown away on set watching Tim, and I shouldn't be because he's a seasoned veteran actor, but I was just like, oh my God, he's so freaking good playing the bad guy. I loved it so much. Go check it out. Fifth Passenger.
Bad guy. That's good stuff, man. You can see the bad
You're
guy.
so good at it too. You're so good at it.
But Tim, we've only got you for another minute. I do want to make sure everybody knows you're actually playing a show on Friday with your Radical band. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I'll be at Tom Bergen's here in Los Angeles. It's on Fairfax Avenue, just south of Wilshire Boulevard. And we start at 9:00 playing there. It's an Irish bar, and we're going to be in there's a room in the back that they have for entertainment, and we'll be back there and play an hour and a half or so. It's a cool gig. There's no cover charge, so you can just walk in and go.
Tom Bergen's. So everybody that lives in LA. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
I'll check it out then.
It's a famous bar. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's been there for a long time. It's like
forever since I've been a kid. Yeah.
So everybody in the LA area,
it's been there. Yeah.
Make sure you go check that out. If you're not in the LA area, you've got 24 hours to get there. You don't want to miss the Tim Russ band, the TR crew. They're so much fun. Your whole band is great.
So amazing.
Songs you play are the best.
Thank you
a great
very
time.
much.
Always.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Tim, thanks so much for playing with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure you're getting a ton of people calling you and freaking out on all over the internet. You've really blown up the internet, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's what those guys deciding to put me back in that piece just before it was over, so right to the end. So we'll be back.
I'm so glad they did. It was a special treat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and they're wonderful to work with. Just wonderful. Everybody was so nice to work with. So aces. Jonathan was there the day I was working, so it was great to see him again. So
cool.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
All right. Take care.
Thanks
guys.
very much. Everybody stick
you.
around. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule. And thank you to Tim Russ. Go tweet him out and tell him how awesome he is. We'll be right back.
What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton and
hello.
Tim Russ, the We Ain't Found Shit guy from Spaceballs. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and that's an awesome movie. Thank you to Tim Russ. We love Tim. So much fun.
Yeah.
Here are the trivioids of the week. We've got a few. They go a little something like this. 7 beat Tuvok countless times at their games of Kalto. Vulcan would never go to Ackley on 7 after the anti-Kolinar demonstrations, and 7's neural pattern was stabilized on Voyager by her friend Tuvok. Jack Crusher found himself a cracking little, what was the thing? I already forgot what the word was. A cracking little spot or suite. It was a cracking little suite or something like that. Captain Shaw acts like he's on social media and blocks all the bad people. Beverly Crusher is rethinking her oath, and Jack Crusher needs some Visine. His eyes are red. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun. That was really cool having Tim.
Every time you say anti-colonoscopy, I think that. Every time you say that, anti-colonars.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I need to get my mind in the gutter. So this was a lot of fun. This episode was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, here was my first thought when watching this episode after the awesome Tuvok and 7 of 9 moment, which was just gorgeous. It was right after that. They said something on the bridge, and Geordi just does his typical one-line thing. But right then it hit me, and I put in all capital letters on my notes. Oh my God, it's so good to have Geordi back on the bridge. Just the way LeVar acts is he's such a great actor, but he's also such a calming presence. And it's almost like you could feel his love coming through the screen. He just feels like such a caring person, and hearing that soothing voice saying whatever the techno babble was of the day just felt so good for my little nerd heart. And it was just amazing to see him there.
Yeah, I would say what he does a great job of when he does the tech babble is almost narrate the emotions that I'm feeling as I'm watching it. So he actually verbalizes it in his performances and in the tone of his voice. When you hear Geordi's sound, it's almost the same tension that you feel. It's either heightened or it's relaxed or it's comical. You actually are matching your own emotion while you're watching it with his tone that he sets. And I think that's one of the things he does a great job of.
It's a really interesting point. For me, when he's saying this techno babble that my limited brain really can't understand, he delivers it always so beautifully and so well, and like he knows what he's talking about. So it calms. It's like, oh, it's cool. I don't need to know what it means. Geordi gets it. He knows. I'm gonna follow. So for me, he kind of like guides the way for me and just makes it like it's cool. Geordi knows what's up. I don't need to. I don't need to get lost in there because I don't understand half these words. Like the trivioids. I was just saying. I don't know what though. I just hope I pronounced them right. I sure didn't deliver them as well as Geordi does.
Well, the thing that stood out to me amongst the performances was also just one, the dialogue was well written, in my opinion. So Jane Maggs, who wrote this episode, I thought has a very good grasp of language and made the dialogue kind of flow well. It was very good. Even the moments when they were going into the deep stuff with the villain, with Amanda Plummer's character, and when she was going heads up against Dr. Crusher, and when she was going heads up against Picard, the way the dialogue was written, I thought was great. She was like, "Oh, okay, yes, I'm already bored. I'm bored already." It was just really good. She got right into it. She's like, "Oh, I thought we were going to be like this, but now I see you're like this." Very good dialogue. So that's one of the things that stood out to me. And also the directing was great. Deborah Kampmeyer. And it stood out to me as well that it was all written and directed by a woman. And I think that's another just something that stands out to me as being wonderful. Because this was an exceptionally good episode. And it made me stick around for the credits to see who it was written and directed by. And that usually only happens under excellent circumstances, when I'm impressed by the results and I want to say, oh, well, who did this? Who wrote this and who directed this? And this episode made me feel that way when I came towards the conclusion.
That is an awesome endorsement. That's really cool. And for me, when it comes to the end credits, I've actually been watching them every time because they've made the end credits feel like a movie. So now, like, normally I just turn off the credit, I move on with my life. But now it's like they made the end credits feel like the end credits of a movie, and it's so beautiful. And every time they've got like the panning over like the panels and the L cars, they've got the beautiful movie music going, and the credit. It feels like the end of a movie every time, and it just goes to show like the details that they've put in to this season of Picard, to where when you're watching the credits, you feel like you just had the completion of a movie, that fulfillment, that satisfaction. It's a really nice feeling in it, and it puts me there every time. The Tholomium 847. I don't know why I just thought of that, but those kind of details. Well, that's like species 847 too, almost, but otherwise I've never heard of Tholomium before.
Yeah, Thelonious Monk. He was a great jazz musician. But no, I thought that
I do not understand that reference.
Oh, there's a musician, Thelonious Monk.
Thelonious, right.
Thelonium 847, but I'm not sure.
Isn't that also a city in Greece, Thelonious? Anyway.
I'm not sure. But so I thought Amanda Plummer, I mean, I can't keep saying how great she is, but she is really great. She sings certain parts, she laughs and smiles, and it's almost a wicked smile. And when she does this scene, when she talks about the torment and torture of her people, of the changelings in the custody of the Federation at Daystrom. It's kind of a really touching story that makes you feel the pain that she's coming from, and it's the same kind of tragic circumstances. I thought when she was describing it, it almost sounded like the Holocaust and what the Jews had to go through as far as being tested and tormented and tortured and all of these kinds of abuse. So yeah, I was very moved by her performance. I thought she was genuine and believable. I think she's a villain with a purpose, which is one of those things that it makes you say, well, it's hard to root against her, even though she's trying to wipe us out. But you still kind of have to find, what side you're on. But she certainly has a valid point when she talks about some of the atrocities that her people went through, because we know that we did that to the changelings. We know that Bashir had discovered the virus that they were trying to infect the changelings with, if I'm not mistaken. That we
and it was, I think it was Section 31 that initially implemented it,
right?
Which is us. But yeah, and thank goodness that they did this for us, because that really just ups the level of the writing in this series to give our villainess extra depth. Because I mean, she was cool, she's great, well written and well acted, but giving her that full backstory and that relatable motivation and that point where we go, can't really hate it. She's not just like some mustache twirling villain where it's, she's just a bad person, It all makes sense. We all get it. She's a pitiable character. And it also just makes the character better, not just for our own sakes, but just the actress can portray her better, knowing this kind of depth and this kind of backstory. It gives us all these references and nods to Star Trek from 30 years ago, which just, ties more things in. I mean, just the entire thing just weaves the tapestry that much better. So I'm really glad that they did that, and they gave us something that I think is really important in all of that backstory, because it's not just the villain's backstory. It's, her people's backstory. It's how this all connects to Deep Space Nine. I mean, it just it's bridging the gap for us. It's really great stuff.
Very good stuff. We still don't know what Jack's dilemma is. We know that he's got to be some kind of hybrid of something, because he's not 100% human.
No, I think he's British, right? Just kidding. Just kidding, all our British pals out there. Hey.
And then I want to say LeVar Burton. And when the Data and LeVar Burton scene, when
yes,
when Geordi's about to lose his daughter and he feels the time ticking on his daughter's life, and he has to make that plea to Data, and he tells him, when you died, you broke me. And man, that was a tearjerker moment. I thought LeVar did an excellent job of conveying that pain that he was holding on to. And I thought Data as well. I mean, Brent Spiner did a great job as well of playing this schizophrenic version of himself. And some of the great lines were, Data's line when he says, "I am here, Geordi. I will try." I was just like, oh, this is just like,
I know.
Gold.
So
this is good.
I love it so much.
Good stuff.
And so we got some Data, we got some lore that you've been introduced to in The Next Generation. And yeah, we really got to see LeVar show his acting chops. I mean, to people watching, he was always showing off his acting chops, even if he was only getting one line here or there in Next Generation or in whatever, he was always, a good actor can still, do good acting, even if the role isn't, hugely expanded. And so he's always done that. But this was really laid out on the table for us. And I bet LeVar just ate it up. I bet when he saw that that's the kind of thing as an actor that you really get up for, that you're like, oh, this is going to be so, kind of like with Tim, when he gets to kind of turn sinister right at the end of his
at the end of his
Tuvok stuff. Geordi or LeVar gets to really show us some good stuff and some good range, and it's beautiful stuff. Even Brent Spiner as Data / Lore gets to show off, almost like an emotional Data and an emotional battle. It's really, really good.
Yeah, he said some penetrating words when he was talking about how old Picard was.
Oh yeah,
and he was just razzing him, and I was like, wow, this guy's a real jerk. Have you looked in the mirror yet, Lore? You've aged yourself, which is something that they explained away with the Dr. Soong thing. But I want to say, I have to go back again to Amanda Plummer, and I hope that we can get her on the show one day, because she's just that amazing.
Well, she keeps calling. I guess we should pick up and just let her.
Let's pick it up one of these days. Yeah. She has, when she walks aboard the ship, and they did a couple of close-ups on her with her goons behind her, and she takes the shuttle aboard the Titan. She reminds me in some ways of Ozzy Osbourne. Now, just watch it with that in mind.
In my book, that's high praise. I love that. So she's walking around biting the heads off bats. She's praying to the devil here and there.
Yeah, she's basically Ozzy Osbourne. Like, she's playing that character like a badass Ozzy Osbourne. There's a little bit of that. Just watch it with that in your mind, and you'll see some of those things come out, those characteristics.
I like it.
But I think she's doing a fantastic job. When she came in, she first saw Jack, she says, I thought she'd be taller. It was just like it's like not what you expect her to say, which is why I like the way she delivers things. She's very comical sometimes.
It's because she only saw him on Zoom before, and on Zoom you can't really everything. You're always like, when you meet somebody in person, you're like, oh, I thought you were smarter.
And then she says very jokingly, I just want to take you to a better place, talking to Jack. She delivers lines with so much color, and that's why I believe she's a great villain, because sometimes villains try to sound evil the whole time, and they're trying to sound mean and like they're a bully. But the colorful stuff, the playful, light villains, the way Christopher Walken plays a villain, the way she's playing a villain, which is this kind of light, laughy. The Joker played it well with Jack Nicholson. He's great at that kind of. It's a little bit of a joke to me, but it's not, And the singing, there's a way that it's done that is a masterful portrayal of a layered villain, not just a one crazy bad guy who locks himself like Ted Kaczynski in a room trying to build a bomb, but more of a guy that's like an extrovert and an articulate and intelligent person, not just a violent, brutal person. And that's why I think she does such a great job. I can't keep, and I also really like this actor who's playing Jack Crusher. I think he's really great. And they also gave us a little bit of the Jack LaForge kind of connection we wanted. Audio's out.
Ed Spalier, I think is his name. Yeah.
Ed Spalier. Yeah, I think he's doing a great job. The romance there between him and LaForge is tangible. There's a good chemistry there.
Sidney LaForge, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
With Amanda Plummer, I'm constantly finding myself two things. One is the biggest compliment I can usually give actors is when she says something, I pause it and dissect how she said it, because she says things in a different way than we say things. Like if somebody gives, the line is, for example, like, of course I like peanut butter with my jelly. There are a few different ways that we would all say, of course I like peanut butter with my jelly. Some people would put the emphasis on peanut butter. Of course I like peanut butter on my jelly, whatever. But she goes, she's like, of course I like peanut butter, whatever the hell it's like she does these things. It's like every line she delivers is a freaking roller coaster ride. You know, almost a little bit like how Max Grodenchik does Rom, where he kind of sings like he's like, of course I like peanut butter, you know, like he does like on these.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a roller coaster ride, every line, and it's always delivered in a way that I would not have considered or thought. And I think that's what makes me like to picture her auditioning process. She shows up, she's got her hair slicked back, or she does something, and she reads things where it feels to the person listening like, even though they've heard that line delivered 50 times before her, everybody's walking in, feels like they've heard that line for the first time coming from her mouth, because she delivers it differently than everybody else. Sounds like a new line, and you know that she just impressed the hell out of them with her creativity. It's very easy to see why they chose her, why they cast her, for sure.
She's 100% an excellent villain, and I mean movie quality villain on a television show. She is like a movie. She's like Khan or somebody. Yeah. She's doing this over the course of 10 episodes. You know, this is not just a one-time 90-minute hit. You have to maintain that kind of fear factor over the course of, you know, several hours of on-screen time. And she has done that since the beginning of this show. This is 7 episodes in. I'm still fearful of her. She was in a containment field, for crying out loud, and I was still fearful of what she's gonna do.
So were Sydney and Jack. Yeah,
yeah. I was still worried. I was like, I don't know. I don't trust it. Mm-hmm. You know. So she's just that good. And and another thing that she's really sold me on is that she's not going to stop. Like that's it. She's like, you know, it's either she accomplishes her goal or you take her out. But there is no middle ground there. I don't think there's a negotiating this one out. I think it's me or you in this situation.
And I think the biggest mystery I really want to know is I want to know who her crew is. I want to know what those aliens are. I want to know, because they're bigger and taller than she is. So I keep thinking since day one, I want it to be the Breen, because, you know, remember the Breen were part of the Dominion crew. They were, you know, hooked up with the Changelings. They're big and tall. They have, you know, garbled up voices. So I'm still holding out hope it might be the Breen. Now, it could just be some other race we've never heard of, or it could be some other new thing. But I think it would be so cool if it does turn out to be the Breen. I mean, they might not even tell us, I guess, because I don't know if it's necessary to the story, but I think it would be great. So I'm constantly, when they talk, I'm looking at like the closed captioning at the bottom to see if there's any kind of hint, like if it says in Breen language and then says the thing or anything, but I'm not getting any hints. So my little nerd brain is just constantly trying to figure out, looking for anything. They haven't told us anything. I have no clue yet. That's a good mystery. The Jack Crusher thing, what's he up to, is also, you know, a big mystery.
It's crazy because I'm starting to think that, I don't know, this is me guessing because I haven't seen anything past this episode. I'm just speculating. But from what I understand with the way they're playing with the storyline of Picard's genetics sitting inside of Daystrom and the manipulation of it with Jax to create some kind of hybrid or something to that degree, it's making me think that Jack is not a naturally conceived, biologically conceived child.
Are you questioning Jean-Luc Picard's virility?
I'm saying that he probably wasn't even there. It could have been, for example, it could have been a changeling that looks like Picard, who ended up inseminating Crusher, and she would not know the difference technically, and I don't think that is Picard's son.
Wow.
I think that's the guy who looked like Picard's son.
Interesting. And Beverly's like, Jean-Luc, that was the best time ever. But I mean, it absolutely could be just somebody else that's been programmed to truly believe he is Jack Crusher, or it could be something that was kind of created, in a lab. She was, or she was specially impregnated. I think that there's some kind of connection to Picard being Locutus of Borg when he was captured by the Borg. He still has some nanoprobes in him. And so there's some kind of thing going on there. In First Contact, it looked like he's still got the nanoprobes in him, or he's still connected in there. I don't know. That would be, to me, the obvious answer. Said. Hey, zip, zing, zing. That's kind of the most obvious answer. So I don't know if that's what they're going to go with, but that's the only thing I can think of. Borg related.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. That's the beauty of actually watching this, is you don't know. I still think that, towards the end, we saw this character get hold of the Titan and basically take controls and seize the Titan. So that's another thing they're doing a great job on this show. They give us enough to fill us up from the last week and just give us more. So like, okay, the story has moved along, but then it's also, oh, but what about this? And then they leave it right at a good cliffhanger. When she takes over the Titan and starts saying, open a channel, and she tells 7 of 9, would you please? And I was like, she's so good at just, being the evil leader. And so, they've left it now. Like, where is this going to go from here? What's going to happen after this? I don't know. And, so there's it's really a good show. This season has been just really amazingly good.
Yeah. Can you believe there are only 3 episodes left in this entire series? Like, the series ends in 3 episodes. Yeah. So they're going to be tying up a lot of loose ends. By the way, I wanted to point out too, Beverly Crusher. She hasn't been necessarily part of the A plot of the last few episodes because it's kind of tough. They've got the bridge. It's a very top heavy show. Everybody's a commander or a captain or a commodore or an admiral. But in this episode, they found a very good way to incorporate Beverly Crusher. And I thought it was a really good moment when she was talking with, I believe it was Geordi. And let me see. She says, she's like saying we could study what, something that was going on within the changelings to get a better idea of what we're dealing with. And then Geordi says, you mean like fashion a weapon against them? And she says, or at least a tool. And that was really, it's very smart. It's not just good writing, but it's also just a great way of incorporating the character, because nobody wants to come back, to a series just to kind of be off on the side. And then so it was a really smart and creative way to incorporate her, and it pays off later on in the episode when she does get the Thalius, the Thelonium 847. And so now they have a way in which they can track the changelings and identify them. It's really good stuff. That was very smart, and I'm glad that they were able to do that. And of course, Gates McFadden nailed it. She was great. Very happy for her. It's all good stuff. Now let's talk about all the stuff we hate about this episode. Just kidding. We don't have any. Unless you do.
No.
I don't know.
The
only critique I did have was when they put the shields back up, the field. When Data and Geordi put the field back up. I'm like, how do they know that Jack Crusher wasn't, after the scuffle, wasn't like lying over it? They had the fight in the battle. How crazy would it be if he's like, put the force field back up and he's lying there, just slices him right in half, because it popped up right in front of him. I'm like, you guys got lucky. This story could have gone sour real quick.
Yeah, I did think that it was kind of unusual that the field would come right between them. But I like the idea of him getting inside of her head and having that little fight scene where he was kind of body motioning her, and they choreographed that.
I wanted to bring that up because that was very reminiscent, if you'll recall, of when what was the episode? Damn, I can't, it's at the tip of my tongue. Everybody in the live chat and in the comments below, tell me the Deep Space Nine episode of which I'm thinking when it was House of Quark. It was called House of Quark, I believe, or it might have been the other one. When Worf is doing for Quark, showing him what to do. He had like the thing on his head when Quark was fighting for Grilka, and he was fighting that Klingon, and Worf was showing him how to do like the Batlet thing. It was exactly like that because Jack Crusher was doing the moves physically as well as projecting them out. So it definitely reminded me of that. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but it was very reminiscent of that episode.
Yeah, that was a good kind of a creative idea right there. I like the moment. But certainly we have a lot more to go. There's a whole lot more to see in this. And they also brought up the idea of this genetic weapon, which is something that was bothersome for Bashir when he found out about it, and then again for Picard when he was realizing that the cure wasn't something that was being voluntarily given to anybody. I thought that was kind of a good callback as well.
Yeah. Good stuff. I just checked it out. House of Quark as well. I believe that's what the episode was. Lastly, for me, I wanted to point out that it must have been fun for Amanda Plummer to play this other character, however shortly, that Vadic mimicked, herself after, and it was like Amanda Plummer with the little hair, and she was whistling and doing all this stuff. And it was fun because I'm like, I wonder if Amanda Plummer could even act normal if she tried. And she kind of almost pulled it off, but even still, she still kind of seemed a little zany as scientist number 3 or whatever. But that was really cool and fun. And for me, it was like just a nice little treat just to see her as like the regular person that Vadic, pulled from initially.
And I'm going to also have you mentioned whether you were curious about those soldiers being Breen or not. And the thing that I'm curious about is what that entity that Vadic answers to is.
I was literally I just saw that in my notes. I was literally just going to say that, yes, we learned something, or at least I think we did, which is when the Face, it's called the Face, when it was talking to Vadic and it said, we must have the boy, and she talks back and she says, or you and your kind, whatever. And I was like, whoa, hang on a second. If he's saying Vadic, you and your kind, that means he is not a changeling.
Right.
So this whole time I thought he was. What the is he then if he's not a changeling? So there was a little hint there.
My question exactly. What is that species, or what is that? Is that the result of the hybrid experimentation? Did it create this other thing? I don't know, but it's a mystery for me why the changelings, because they in the previous storyline the changelings were the dominant race in the Dominion, right? So they were the ones in charge, and they had the the Jem'Hadar were underneath them. They had the what was Wayu and
the Vorta.
They had the Vorta underneath them, but they were the master race. The decision makers were the changelings. In this version of events, it's appearing to me that the changelings are not necessarily the top of the food chain. It seems like they're taking orders themselves from the Face.
Yeah. So, and so it does make you wonder, well, what's controlling this whole thing? And I've seen at least one person say, well, have we seen red eyes before? And of course we have seen red eyes before. There's our friend Gul Dukat, when he had red eyes, it was the Pah-wraiths, right? And look at this guy with his red eyes, Mr. Jake Sisko. When was that? That was when he was inhabited by the Pah-wraiths, and when he was gonna fuck up Major Kira. He was like zapping her and all that in the showdown. So what if this, because the Pah-wraiths were kind of connected with the founders in that, as they mentioned in this episode, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They both, the changelings and the Pah-wraiths both think the Federation is their enemy. So maybe that's what the connection is. Maybe that is a Pah-wraith learning how to communicate with the changelings through the hand cutting and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe Jack is in some way partially Pah-wraith or inhabited by, I don't know, but there could be something there with the red eyes.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I see that. It's a little speculation at this point, but as good as guess as any for me.
Yeah, but what we didn't find out, and I was hoping we would, is why does Vadic have those lines on her face? Because if you'll notice, the person that she copied did not have those lines on her face, but it showed that when that changeling mimicked her and became her, the lines on the face were already there. So it doesn't tell us where those lines came from. I guess they're just said, I'm gonna be just like this person, except I want some lines on my face. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or the face demanded it. You need to have the lines.
Yeah. It's cool stuff. And the best part is, we're going to get all the answers to this in the next 3 weeks. That's it. Because there's no see you next year.
Yeah. It's sad that it's coming to an end. Because it's really getting so good. But they would have to start up a whole other storyline for season 4, which I'd be totally up for. This season has been a real delight, a real treat. I love the cameos. I love the callbacks. They made a non-appearance mention for Janeway in this episode.
Yes, you got it. That's right. Yeah.
And so that was also cool. And yeah, we're going to see what Frontier Day is going to look like, and how they're able to, figure this out, because it's going to be kind of crazy.
See, these are the lines I'm talking about here. She when the changeling became her, it already had the lines on the face. So there's something interesting there. You know what I'm thinking about, that Frontier Day? What if, Paramount's doing that and they're actually they're going to say, by the way, everybody, Frontier Day is September 10th, or Frontier Day is January 20th, something like that. And so then they're going to have another Star Trek Day kind of thing. There's going to be another big Star Trek holiday coming soon, everybody. So stay tuned for that announcement. But I think that's about it for us this week, right? It's freaking amazing. Janeway was the one non-appearance mention. I agree with that. Let's give a very special thanks to a few people, besides, of course, Mr. Tim Russ. And their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman Tom, TJ Jackson Bay, Bill Victor Arukin.
Arukin.
Good one. Titus Muller, Darlena Marie, Dr. Muhammad Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anna Post, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, DQ, Neil Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kurtzen, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Jed Thompson, Luther Haynes Jr., Dr. Courtney Lewis, Beth Ernest, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Jason Okun. All right, everybody. It's time to get those change.org things going to make sure to petition them to do a Picard season 4. And I know the people are in Paramount are like, no chance, bro. But we got 3 more weeks of this. It's going to be super fun.
This
Can't
is
wait.
Good stuff. Yeah, this is good stuff. Good Star Trek show.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next week. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.